Hi, how you going? Welcome back to the last of today's 4 tutorials. Welcome to the live stream, and this is brought to you by the Hobbyman and Hearn's Hobbies. Glad to have had your company today, and hope you enjoy this next one here. So we're going to be talking about two things. One is weathering, and the other is decals. I'm going to start with decals and move on to weathering very shortly. Decals are basically stickers that go on your models, and if you're not aware of that, but they're not stickers. Usually with modeling, they're not stickers in the sense that you would understand a sticker that you peel off and just stick on. It's got adhesive attached to the bottom of it. Model stickers, decals are typically a lot thinner, much more lower profile, and they usually come in a sheet like this one. This model that I'm going to be showing you here is the Spitfire, that one there. It's a Tamiya 72nd scale Spitfire. I've been working a little bit on that today. So earlier on today I showed you some of the painting that I did, and in between sessions I also did the camo on the other side. So you can see there. And I'm going to be doing the top side of the wings there with our decals. So I might get the other view, please, if I may, BJ. All right, so we've got our decal sheet. We have our instructions, and this is basically a map of the aircraft itself that shows you the decals and where they're all going to go, and they're all numbered. As are the decals on here, are all numbered. And I have my model, obviously. This is just a portion of it. Typically, when you're doing decals, it's usually pretty much all together, the model that you're doing. And what you do is then you go over it with the decals towards the end of the process. Now, like we were talking before in the last session about panel lining, usually what we would do, what a lot of modelers do, is a clear coat, a gloss coat first, then the decals, so that they sit on the model nice and smoothly and evenly and finely. And then over the top of that, you might do a matte coat, a matte clear coat, so that you get the appropriate sheen on the model itself. In this instance, I'm not doing the clear gloss coat because obviously time is of the essence, so we're just going to move straight along. What else you need other than the decal sheet and the model itself is I've got a very shallow dish. This is just a saucer, a very small saucer of some kind. You need some water. I've got mine in an old sauce bottle, and I typically use demineralized water or purified water. Or filtered water or something like that. I'm just putting that in my dish. You would need some decal tweezers. Now, I couldn't find my decal tweezers at home. I might actually get one of you gentlemen just to grab me one of the 9 steps ones, please. The flat ones, yes, please. Yeah, I like to have spares at home anyway, so this is one of the 9 steps brand. It's got the nice flat head to it. I'm going to open that up and show you. The 9 steps stuff is really, really good. You should come in and see our range. It's expanding all the time. Got a little bit on it there. I'm just going to cut that off. Now, what sets these apart from other tweezers is they've got that flat-headed surface. So what you're not going to get is a tweezer like this one, where it's quite sharp at the end and it can tear into the decal when you're lifting it and moving it. This one's got a nice flat head to it there. There we go, you can see that. So it's much better for moving the decals around. What else you'll need is some plain cotton buds, a dime a dozen from the chemist or the supermarket, and a hobby knife, or even a very fine pair of scissors. Okay, let's go to our mat, and I'm going to show you how this works. You can also use, there are products, I might have some over here. No, I don't. There are products you can get such as the Tamiya Mark Fit, or you can get the Microsoft and the Microsol, which are products that are formulas that help to soften the decals, help them to sit properly over curved surfaces. So you've got an object like this where it's curved wings, and you want to make sure that that decal conforms to that surface well. You might have a car where you know, it's a rounder body and you need the decal to sit properly on that. So you can use products like that, but you don't have to. In this, for the purposes of this, we're just going to use plain water, and that's all. All right, so let's go for our biggest one first. You can see that that large decal there. It's decal number 1 on both sides, the round one that's going to sit over that portion of the model. So what I'm going to do is I've got my decal sheet here, and typically I do this on a cutting mat, but I don't have one handy right now. So I'm just going to use my hobby knife, and I'm going to cut around that decal. As I said, this isn't a sticker sheet per se. It's not something where you can't actually peel that sticker off this sheet and apply it to the model. You just can't do it. So I'll take off that one as well. There we go. So I've got my decal there on the card. Now that won't come off by itself. What you need to do is moisten it. So I'm going to submerge it in the water, top and bottom, so that the water completely surrounds that decal. And I'm going to wait about 10 or 15 seconds. Now, if you're using the fluid, the decal fluid, what you would do is, depending on which brand you're using and the instructions on the brand, say the Tamiya Mark Soft as a Mark Fit rather, for instance, what you would do is you would apply some to the model. You would slide the decal off onto the model, and then you would apply some more over the top. And but for this purpose, we're just going to use water. So that's been sitting there for a little while. What I will gently want to do, lift it out, and being very careful, I'm going to see if that shifts off the paper, and I'm not quite moving yet. So let's give that another 15, 20 seconds, just so the water soaks all the way through that bit of cardboard. Still not moving. Maybe I should have picked one of the smaller decals first. I don't know. Let's have a look at what other decals are on this particular part of the wing. 24, 32. Okay, 32 is a little bit of lettering that's going to sit about there. So let's find that on our sticker sheet. Oh no, it's actually quite a long one, and it sits. Actually, probably should have done that one first because it's going to sit underneath that other one there. So let's try and cut that one out. Okay, gonna quickly pull that off. Put that in the water. Now that actually, it's not quite clear on the thing, but that probably needs to go underneath this decal. So let's lift that out with my flat tweezers. You see how that's moving around now on that backing card? It's because it's loose, it's ready to go. So I'm just going to leave it there for a minute. Get rid of that while I'm waiting for this other one to get moving. And as you can see, that long one there, it's going to go the length of the wing and then go up to the edge there. So it gives us a point of reference, this part here. Okay, let's lift that out. Let's see, one's not moving still. We'll give it another few moments. Now, the thing about these, as opposed to other stickers to keep in mind, is that they are incredibly fine. They're very, very thin, very, very fragile, so you need to be gentle with them. Having said that, don't panic if they happen to break or fall apart, because they are often retrievable. You're often able to get the pieces and shift them into place just by putting a little bit of water over the decal and the model itself. I'm just going to get a little bit of paper because I managed to spill, probably put a little bit too much water in my dish, to be fair. All right. Okay, let's see here. There we go. So that's moving there. So what we're going to do is we're going to hover that over. We'll put a little bit of water on the model itself. Now, I didn't paint this all that long ago, so I'm hoping not to reactivate the paint. I'm going to move that over the model. Slid off. Nope. There we go.
I'm not trying to create more work for you. Do you think that's all right? That's what Jordan does.
It's fine. See how it's still quite wet and I've got the water over the surface of the plane. So I'm able to mostly maneuver that into place. Let's get a little bit more water involved. There we go. See how it sort of slides on the water? Now I'm going to look at my instructions again and I'm going to position that exactly where it needs to go, up there and along that line there. And flatten that out. Getting there. Straighten that out. Let's shift it down a little bit. Bring it up. And that's where it's going to sit. You can see that against the model itself.
Want to go close?
So, yes, please, there. I can't really move that. Are we? Oh, no, it's this way. Okay. There we go. You can see the decal against the model, against the instructions. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my cotton bud. And I'm going to very carefully press that down and dab it and make sure that I've got all the water out from underneath it and off the model. Especially on these bits here, there's a couple of slightly raised pieces. You want to make sure it sits over that quite nicely. There we go. Just there.
The slipper was a little bit too loose, but that's the one we want. And he said, hey, he called you and said, the slipper's a little bit loose potentially.
So this is not, by any stretch of the imagination, a perfect job because I'm trying to do it as fast as I can. The camera. So we got that. Oh, that decal has moved because of course it has. So just going to dampen that again. Oh, that's moved again. Oh, it's shifted right out of the road. So okay, I'm going to be just. It happens. It does happen. This is a very particular. I thought I'd start with that big decal, and then I realised I needed to put this decal underneath it, which made this whole job a lot more complicated. There we are. That is in the perfect spot. So now I'm going to pat that down. Oh. Let's shift it again. No, it's all right. It's all right. My son's in the background having conniptions over this decal. I'm the only one not panicking here. It's annoying. It's probably boring to watch, but it's a really long decal, this one, so it's very painful to put on. Now, I want that to dry out a little bit too. Might just hit it with a heat gun just to teach it a lesson. What do you reckon? There we go. Now I'm going to just get a little bit of a chucks here because I want to dry off. I've put a lot of water on this model now, which I want to get rid of. Now, once you've got the water out from underneath it and off from the top of it, you'll find that that decal just settles right down and adheres to the model. That might not be perfectly straight, but it's pretty good. So okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. It's not perfectly straight, but it's for our purposes today, it's going to be okay. Now let's look at this rondel that's been sitting here for the longest time. Quite slidey off the thing. So what you want to do for this one is I'm going to position it right there. I'm going to look for the markings on the model itself, which give me a clue as to where this is going to go. And I'm going to slide that paper out like that. Boom. And there it is. Just maneuver that slightly. There we go. How's that? Sitting there. That worked out a lot quicker and easier than the last one, didn't it? Now I'm just smoothing that out. And what I'm doing is I'm pushing from the inside of the sticker out to make sure that I'm pushing any bubbles out, and I'm pushing any water that's still sitting underneath there, pushing that out too. And what's left is the adhesive, which sticks it to the model. How's that? And there we go. We've got a couple of our decals on. I'm going to do one more on the top of this wing, and it's this one here, number 24. Not yet. So I'm going to cut that one out, pop it in my water. And it's just a little bit of lettering and stuff that goes over this part here. And I'm just going to put that, make sure it's settling over that nicely, conforming over that, those ridges. And the other one is going to go over this section here, just there. See the little 24 there on the instructions. So, still not off the paper. I'm just going to leave that for another. So most decals take, what, about 20 seconds or so. So you just need to be patient with that in the water. Make sure that that is coming off appropriately. Not quite sliding off the paper yet, so we're not quite ready for that one yet. Still just keep that soaking in there, soaking up the water. So I'm going to do that one last decal on there, and then we're going to move on to a little bit of weathering. So obviously that sticker sheet, quite involved. That's going to take quite some time to put them all on. I really strongly encourage you with decals is to take your time. As I said, they're very delicate. You need quite a delicate touch. So just take your time, be careful with it, be delicate with it. Decal tweezers. And that is moving off the sheet now. It's excellent. I'm having a look at that lettering. It goes like that. Sorry, it goes like that. Sorry, my head was in the way apparently. So that's going to sit there, along those lines there. So again, putting that where that needs to go, and then sliding my paper out. And that's not quite in place, so let's get a bit of water. There we go. So I'm just maneuvering that into better place. And this is where it's over a little bump there. So this is where some of the mark fit and those kind of products can come in handy, because they will help conform to those curves and those edges. You don't need them, absolutely, but they can be beneficial. Just going to straighten that up there. There we go. There you go.
Can we have a close look at it?
Yes, please. Now that's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I could probably have done that one a little straighter. I'm going to look at, yeah, that one has shifted Okay, hold on. Where are we? There we go. So I'm just straightening that one up and just getting out the air bubbles and the water bubbles and that kind of thing out of it. Making sure that is straight. That one looks good. There we go. So that's some of the decals on there. Now, if you do a clear coat, a matte clear coat over that, which I will do in time, it'll take out some of that shininess you still see there. Is probably partly because of the water. So that is a little bit about the water slide decals and how they work. It's not perfectly applied, I will admit to that freely, but for our purposes today, it will do. I'm going to move some of this stuff aside, and I'm going to show you some weathering stuff. Now, I've got a car over here. Now, if you've tuned into our video or our live stream that we did a while ago on airbrushing, it's this one here. You'll recognise this model is the model that we did on some of those, and we did some black with oh, let's show you here. We did some black with gold stripes, as you can see here. Now, what I've done now is I've gone over it with the airbrush, and I've started rusting that up a little bit. So it's going to be a paddock junker. In a little while, it's going to go from a nice shiny 66 Shelby Mustang to something that you'd find out in the back paddock somewhere. That's right. That's right. So now, what I've done with my wear and tear with the rust that I've painted on there, and this is just a rust-coloured airbrush paint that I've painted on. You can see it's a bit speckled, it's a bit rough in a few spots, it's uneven, and it's not symmetrical. One of the things that you need to do when you're weathering that can't be understated is actually looking at real-life models, what actual rust and wear and tear looks like in real life. Get on Google, do an image search for rusty, whatever it is. What I did was I put in a rusty 66 Shelby. And I got all of these pictures and images of rusty cars, this paint job and everything, and how they looked. And I actually mimicked the rust on this bonnet and the lights on something that I saw. And what I found was the top and the bonnets were often more rusty than the side bits were. So I've tried to mimic that, and I noticed that one side around the headlights was more rusty than the other. So I've tried to mimic that in what I've done as well. So keeping in mind too that rust, the way it works is that it tends to be a little bit more around the edges often. In some cases, you can get a whole panel, like the whole bonnet, is really, really rusty, where you don't have any paint left and it's just all rust. And then you get a painted door or a painted thing where it's still a lot more pristine. So it's uneven by its very nature. It's going to be uneven. It's going to be awkward. It's going to, not be at all straight. So that model, when it's finished, is going to be a paddock junker. I've got a couple of products over here too. Now, our Mustang that we were looking at earlier, what I did was I got some bits that were on a different version of the model that I was not going to use. I'm just going to grab the product I was using for that. It's this one here. It's called, it's a Vallejo branded one. It's chipping medium. Now, there's a couple of different ways that you can do this particular method that I'm about to show. With this one, what you do is you get your piece, whatever it is. So this piece is on the sprue. You would paint it in that rusty color, or say a brushed aluminium, matte aluminium or something, whatever you want underneath it. And then what you do is you paint on the chipping medium only in the spots where you want the chipping to be, the paint chipping. And then you paint the color of the actual panel. And you can sort of see I've done a bit of that. I probably overdid it with the chipping medium. Could we zoom in on that, please? Now, I did this in a bit of a rush and I overdid the chipping medium a little bit, and you can see it's cracked a little bit. So the paint job is not at all perfect, but that's okay because we're talking about something that's going to be worn. Now, when you then apply water and scratch the paint off, it ends up looking like that. So you can see along that edge how it's all chipped away. So I'll show you how that works, just with a very basic brush and just a little bit of water. And I'm just going to go over, oh, that's actually a dead brush. Let's grab another one. This one here. Oh, yes, please, yeah. Can you zoom out? Thank you. And I'll get a bit of paper here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit of water where I want the chipping to be, the paint chipping. Let's let that settle in for a sec. And again, where's it going to be worn? It's going to be worn along edges and corners and that kind of thing. So you can see there I've put the water down. And what that does is it reactivates the top surface of the paint and allows it to be scratched off. So again, what I typically would use is things like bamboo skewers because the wood is going to scratch off the paint. See that? It's like I'm chipping it away.
Can you go a bit tighter?
Yeah, sure.
I'll give an opportunity for people to see it a bit better.
There we go. See that? So I'm just chipping away at that edge there. So there, what you end up getting is that worn, chipped, and it's kind of random. There's a bit in the middle. It's all different colors. It's not all uniform, and it looks a little bit messy. You've got a little bit of peeled paint there. So that is how you can get that really old, weathered look. Another thing, we talked about dry brushing earlier on. Here's another method of using it for wear and tear. This probably isn't the best piece. I'm going to do it on my whatchamacallit here. I'm going to use the chrome silver, even though probably a flat aluminium might be a little bit better. And I'm going to do that same dry brushing technique that I used earlier. So I'm getting a little bit of paint just on the tip of my brush, and I'm getting it mostly off. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to hit that there with a few scratches. So you can imagine this car would have been painted black, but between the rust and the scratches, now, as opposed to my dry brushing, what I've done here is I've got a little bit more paint on the brush than what I had with the dry brushing, and I'm hitting it a little bit more randomly. So what you get is an effect like that. Can we see that? Starts looking a little bit...
Magic Mike.
Oh, I don't know about that. We'll see when this is finished how magic it looks. Hopefully it looks pretty ugly. Some scratches here on the bonnet. See, very little paint on the brush, doesn't need to be much. Now, I'm going to do a little bit more just here. And there's a reason for that. I want to use some of these bits here because I've got another product I want to show you that is going to help us. Now, in keeping in mind with wear and tear, particularly weathering, if this has been sitting in a paddock for a long time, the weathering and the streaking is going to go down this way, down horizontally, like as weather's been hitting it and it drips down. So what I want to do is actually have my drips and scratches move in that vertical way. Just going to lift that up, so I'm getting that bit of the bonnet there. Now what I can do there, I've got that patch there where I've done the silver. I can cover that up and I can go in with an orange. Where's that? I had it here and now I've lost it. So I'm just looking for a particular rust color that I had handy here. And of course now it's not so handy.
Was it paint?
Yeah, that's it there. There we go. Model Air. So this is the Model Air. It's orange rust color, and that's the color that I used to paint that. I'm just going to get a little bit out there. And I'm just going to dot that in there like that over the top of that silver, just to take the edge off it a little bit. So it looks a lot more like that rusty kind of look. But it makes that bare metal a little bit subtler than what it was before.
It's looking good.
There we go. All right. So something else that we can do with this one, I'm actually going to get my work pad back over here onto this, is I'm going to use this Vallejo effect. It's a wash. So we covered washes previously. So this is a rust wash. So what that looks like is this is quite loose, quite fluid, and it's a slightly different tone. You can see it's a darker orange than this orange. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just hit different parts of the model, and it seeps into those cracks and crevices. Again, it doesn't matter how messy it is, because guess what? Rust is messy. Okay. I'm going to let that drip as rust would. Wipe that off. Okay, can I get the zoom in again on that, please?
Let's see your handiwork.
All right, you can see there, especially in here, in where those windscreen wipers are, you get that.
Focus. Yeah.
You see how that looks dirtied up and rusty? Look at that around that headlight there. Let's see that there. Look at that. So you get that rust wash look on it as well. So we're really starting to dirty this up. This is starting to look more and more like a real proper paddock bomb. Okay, one more little weathering thing I can show you here. And that is, I got it out here, is again, Vallejo. These are two Vallejo products. This is pigment powders and pigment fixer. So you can use these in 3 different ways. You can put the pigment fixer onto the model and then sprinkle the pigment powder over the top of it. Or you can put the pigment powder down on the model and then drip the pigment fixer over the top. It seeps in, it's colorless, and it'll set it in place. Or what I'm going to do today is I'm going to open that up. So it's just a powder. And I'm going to get this old brush here. I'm going to put a little puddle of that down. And I'm going to open up my pigment fixer here. And I'm going to make a little bit of a slurry. Come on, come on, come on, come on. There we go. So what I'm doing is I'm making a little grainy slurry kind of thing. And then what I'm going to do is, particularly around my edges here, I'm just going to apply that.
So that's going to look really crusty, isn't it?
It is going to look really, really crusty. That's a great word for it. And with that crustiness and that graininess, because that's how rust often is, I'm hitting mostly edges here. And what you can do is you can go back with your wash later on, and really help that look as realistic as possible by putting the wash over it, and it'll help blend it in a lot more. I just heard someone in our train section say that someone was on the right track, and I'm thinking, I hope so. That's what train sections are for, really, isn't it? So I'm going to put a little bit in the middle here.
It's crusty as.
Show us your crust.
See how the silver's all.
The silver's gone a little bit more subtle now.
Bloody magician.
Brett.
But it looks like black underneath. Looks like rust.
Well, it's going to change as it dries. It'll probably lighten up just a little bit. It looks a bit dark now. Now I can do a little bit here around this. Now I probably should have done the wash after this layer, but I chose to do it this way because the pigment fixer tends to dry a little bit slower. And if I was waiting for that to dry before I did the other thing, it just wouldn't have worked. Can we zoom in on that a little bit too,
I want to
please?
see all the details of it. It's amazing how it's. Look at that.
So you can see how that has started to take that effect. Now, again, take a little bit of time with that and make it look really like an old rust bucket.
So it looks like it's bubbled up.
Yeah.
One more product I'm going to show you. You thought I was done, and I just wasn't. And it is, again, I thought I had it in front of me, but of course I didn't. And it's this one here. It's a weathering effect again. It's an environmental one, and it's called Streaking Grime.
Drinking grime.
Streaking Grime.
About that, don't you?
It's kind of a greeny browny color. So it's that this kind of thing is, again, quite thin. This kind of thing can be used in dioramas. It can be used in basing and that kind of thing for your miniatures. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bit there. If that has been out in the yard a long time, you're going to have a bit of griminess about it. I'm going to do that around my rust. I'll tell you what I'll do. If that bonnet is up like that, I'll be able to put a bit here and have it actually streak down the way it would.
It's nothing really hard about it.
Could have been on the east side.
See how that drips down there?
In the mornings, that's when the moss grows. In the mornings, it doesn't go on the north side. You're lunatic. You know anything about moss?
Again, Brett in the background here points out our very good reasons why we should always look at reference materials. Because if you looked at reference materials, you'd know about when moss grows. In the morning?
In the morning.
There you go, moss grows in the morning.
Morning moss. So it wouldn't be on the north side of your model. Not in the southern hemisphere.
I think early started like
Okay.
that.
There we go. So I'm just adding a little bit here to where I've done my rust.
Most.
Bit of streaking grime. And that's going to add just another layer, another depth of color. When that dries out, it's going to be a little bit more subtle than what it is right there. Let's zoom in on that again. Have a closer look.
Nice hand. It should be a hand model.
There we go. So that's really looking worn and crusty and crunchy. I mixed them up and said crutchy. There you go.
Yeah, let me just focus that. I often talk about crutches. Don't you focus? Yeah.
Hold on, I'll bring it down a little bit. There we go. There we go. So you can see yeah, we're really starting to create a really old rust buckety type thing. Look at that.
So you just keep adding layers, right?
Layer upon layer upon layer. Rusty cars are like onions.
Like a lasagna.
That's right. Yep, that's right.
I think there was a question that was...
Do you know that lasagna is basically just spaghetti flavoured cake?
That's what Dad says it is.
All right, there's a question here.
Yeah, I've got a question. Oh, yes. Ask about the decals.
Cartograph decals. And I don't think they are. I think those Tamiya decals are Tamiya printed decals, which are quite thick.
Yeah, they do have a bit of profile about them. I don't do a lot of decal work. I had to practice before I came here today just to make sure that I could actually apply one without destroying it, to be honest. So, yeah. I would defer to BJ's wisdom on that one. So yeah, the Tamiya ones are Tamiya printed. They're a little bit thicker. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's our rust bucket. That's our one that's been sitting in the garden. You can see some of that pigment some of the the pigment powder that's been sitting there has started to dry out. I'll probably have to redo a few little bits and pieces of this to make it a proper junker. But yeah, we're getting there. We're getting that rusty old look with the raised surfaces and the grime and everything else. You can imagine when that whole thing's done and the tyres are flat, I can flatten out the tyres a little bit, maybe with a heat gun. And yeah, good fun. So there you go. There's our little junker there. So you've seen some decals, you've seen some chipping fluid, you've seen some pigment powders and rust washes. You know, you can get washes in all kinds of things. In fact, you can do reverse of what we've done here, where again it's light over dark colours. Sorry, I'm back to this way. Light over dark colours. You can go dark over light colours as well. You can do it in different ways. You've got different kinds of washes and different kinds of pigment powders. You can get pigment powders that look more like snow and that kind of thing for snow effects. So lots of different weathering techniques you can use. You could use some of these techniques with the pigment powders on our rocks that we were looking at earlier that we painted. I don't have one at hand at the moment, but you could easily do that as well. This is really just the basics of these, a lot of these methods and these techniques. Hopefully what that does is it allows you to take a little bit of knowledge, and with a little bit of practice, your imagination can just take off and you can do all kinds of things. So particularly if you're into miniatures and fantasy, that kind of thing, you can use these techniques and go nuts. Do anything you want, anything that your imagination can dream of, you can do in the modelling setting. Why not have a go, have a try? Come in and speak to us at the Hobbyman or Hearn's Hobbies, and we will be more than happy to show you some of the products that we have in store and how they can be used, and make some recommendations. Just all you need to bring is your imagination. Happy modelling, folks. I hope you've enjoyed the tutorials that we've done today so far, and tune in. I'm hoping that we'll be able to do these again more in the future. All the best. Have a great day. Take care. See you later.
Nice.